there's just a different level of connection. I see oftentimes a deeper resolve for making a difference in the community, for really making an impact on the people that work in the business. I love the opportunity for family members to work together because if you can do it in a healthy manner, you know each other well, typically. It can be a really neat opportunity to build legacy as a group.
It's time to reinvent.
Welcome to Reinventing Perspectives podcast. We have a favorite, a friend of the podcast here, Kathy Kasten. Kathy, I'm going to let you reintroduce yourself. I'm going to attach the previous episodes so people can listen to that as well. Introduce yourself as you are today.
Sounds great. It's nice to see you again, Priscilla. I love being back with everybody. In a nutshell, I am a leadership executive coach, a trainer. I do keynote speaking. I've got best-selling books. I just love helping people find their God-given gifts. And how do we shine those in the world? How do we really make an impact? What can we do to live fulfilling lives and give other people gifts and blessings in the process? My side tagline is the corporate alpaca ice cream lady. The Lord has taken me on a crazy journey.
I know we talked about your crazy journey. You've done it all, which is exciting because all the entrepreneurs, whether you're service-based or you got a product or you're starting out your small business somewhere, you've got such a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with us. But congratulations. Today we're here to talk about your new book.
Thank
The
you.
Legacy of Your Family Business.
Yes.
That's the book we're here to talk about. Let me let
Yeah.
you introduce that.
I was really feeling led to put a lot of the experiences that I'm having through the coaching and the training and all of the interactions I've had. There are some truisms of business that transfer across businesses. They're true in the alpaca world. They're true in ice cream. They're true in corporate, right? Building relationships, for example. How do we start to have better conversations? How do we utilize gifts? How do we attract great team members and great customers? All of those things, there are some basics that people can start to apply right away that can completely transform the work they do and also lead to deeper and more meaningful trust and bigger opportunities to share, to engage with each other. After a lot of thought, I thought, how can I reach people that maybe I wouldn't get the chance to reach otherwise? That's how the book came about. I really poured my heart into it, and it took about a year to write.
I know you're big on legacy from talking to you before. You say your legacy is what you're living right now. Being
Mhm.
conscious that it's not something that's going to come at some point in time. This is
Right.
you. What you're living today is your legacy. You've brought in the idea of family business, but why family business?
I think for a lot of people that I coach, there's a special deep passion, especially in the world of faith, to really reach out and touch people through family. And there's just a different level of connection. Quite a few of the coaching clients I've had have been family businesses. I see oftentimes a deeper resolve for making a difference in the community, for really making an impact on the people that work in the business. And there's just been a really heartwarming side to that I've really enjoyed. And so, and a lot of times too in family business, it's easy to wear all the hats. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can relate to that, right? We're doing all of the pieces, and separating family from work life can be challenging. Sometimes the family is a lot of the members are in the business. Sometimes working so many hours can put a heavy strain on the family. This book honestly will help somebody who doesn't own a family business. Even a corporate person would learn some things in this book. But I really wanted to reach out to the people that are trying to build generational businesses or have family members in it with them so that they can make it a fun experience for the family and not just a heavy drain. Because sometimes there are big consequences to family businesses like divorce or missed childhoods because they're so involved in their businesses. I wanted to bring in some harmony to that and help people to start to think about how can we do both? How can we have an impact and still live that legacy with the time we have with our kids or with our spouse or with our parents? What can we do to adjust? That's the background of how the book came about.
Before I even got into reading the book, I thought about how for entrepreneurs, especially women, at times we feel like there's this pull. When you work on your business, it means that you can't be with your family, or you're stealing time from the family to do your business ventures and things like that. And it's interesting that, of course, both have their challenges, but the opportunity that you've seen in having family be part of business. I guess my first question is, beginning with the end in mind. Let's say you do want to have a generational business and you are just starting out. What am I thinking about? Should I think about that, or should I just focus on getting something viable, or should I always have that at the back of my mind?
If you're just starting out, you need to have a viable business, obviously, in order to make it generational. But one of the things I see often is people let life live them, and we don't make intentional choices. Getting really clear on choosing the best of the best. Choose the very best areas of your business that you're really good at, and we'll focus on those. And make sure that you build in time for family in that process. And as the opportunities present themselves, I know in the United States, we can have grandchildren start working in our businesses at a pretty young age and pay them a small amount of money, which is fun. That even can be a neat connection piece. I think we tend to, especially women, we say yes to everything and we have a heart to do everything. We want to do everything, but what ends up happening is we get exhausted, we overcommit, then we underdeliver, then there's all this stress. So getting really clear on what is the best part of my business, what am I really good at, what are my gifts, how can I shine that? And then how do I build in time for recharge for me and also to build in the legacy pieces with my family, friends, community that I want to have because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. As you and I've talked about before, I was quite ill. These days are gifts to me. I think about that all the time. If today were my last day, how do I want to spend it? Do I want to make sure that I build in something, even if it's 10 minutes a day, to write a letter, to make a phone call, to take a trip with a family member, whatever that looks like, making sure that you do that in the journey. Because as we build businesses, we can get so focused on building that business that we miss all the rest of life. And that's a high risk, I think, sometimes, especially if you're passionate about doing a good job in your business.
That's a very real thing for entrepreneurs, because a lot of it is to be blinkers on and that driven in your business. Sometimes those blinkers, people tend to neglect family and say the money that's generated from the business is what's going to make the family get this and that, or be able to do this and that. So it's worth me putting on blinkers and sort of tuning the family out. Even people with high power careers, this is what's going to give the family that life. So it's okay for me to do what I'm doing. It's so interesting that you saw that there was a lot of resolve in family businesses.
Mhm.
Maybe you can speak to us about the benefits of having a family business.
I love the opportunity for family members to work together because if you can do it in a healthy manner, you know each other well, typically. Often there are different giftings. It can be a really neat opportunity to build legacy as a group. Some of the families I've worked with have 2 or 3 generations working in the business at the same time. And that's so nice to be able to see each other as long as we can still have a life outside of the business, right? That everything isn't tied to the business. But it gives you recognition, I think, even in the community because there are more of you with a similar family name or you're all tied to that same organization and people see that family connection and they value it. And so that draws them in. We are by nature people who want relationships. When you see family businesses, that feels warm, inviting, and exciting. That already sets us up. I've been in corporate, I've been around some wonderful corporations, but they don't have that same warmth to them that a family business often does. And I think that's another thing that working together as a team in your family can bring that is fun. And what an awesome way to leave a legacy in a community or for the people that work for you if you have a whole family working together to do that.
This sounds so warm and cozy. I feel like I would trust a family business more, because I'd think no one would use their family to do sketchy things. I'm sure there are people who would.
A good understanding of valuing each other's gifts because you will have differences and you should. We want people with different skill sets. One family business that I was thinking of in particular, the main leaders was very people focused, wonderful at being out in the community and seeing people One of the other family members who's heavily involved in the business is much more excellent in the areas of process and procedure, and he's not as comfortable out in the public. Both of them are necessary. One of the things we spent time working on with that whole organization was how do we get those two to align? One wants all the offices wide open and everybody to be able to talk to each other. The other one's a corner office with the door. And so working through how do we enjoy each other's differences? How do we appreciate them? How do we lean into those and not let them drive us crazy? And that's a challenge sometimes in family business, just like it is in corporate or other areas. And I think that's a place where it can be really beautiful, but also a little bit of a challenge.
When people think about family business, there are all those memes about when you go to Thanksgiving and you finally see all your family, how to survive them.
There's probably a little bit of truth to that, even in the business part of it. I think as you start to celebrate each of your gifts and you don't see those as competition, you see them as completion. I'm not good at everything. Kathy is not an IT guru. I'm not expert you want to hire if you want to talk about your computers. That's not my area. And it's okay. I can bring someone else in who's really good at that and I can let them shine in that area. And it takes pressure off of me because it's not something that's natural for me. As we get away from there's something wrong with me because I can't do that, and we start to celebrate that person has that gift. I don't need to have it. That's a beautiful interaction opportunity. And I think that mindset shift really makes a difference in how successful family businesses are.
That's key what you just said, that respecting and honoring each person's gift and understanding that it's not a competition. Because so much of life, business and otherwise, school is teaching you. You're constantly trained. You want to be the best at maths. You want to be the best at English. You're trying to be the best at everything. And so stepping away from that kind of thinking.
Dangerous thought process that is recognized a lot in the world. I think that we have to be this perfect person. And the truth is, none of us are perfect people. And so when you try to live up to that mirage, it just exhausts you, frustrates you. You wonder what's wrong with me? Why do I never get there? Why am I not good at everything that I've ever touched? That's not reasonable. But somehow we've all fallen into that trap. And I think once you can let go of that and say, I am gifted in certain areas and I'm going to celebrate that and be really good in those areas. Kathy's never going to be an Olympic swimmer. I could spend the rest of my life swimming laps. I am not going to win a gold medal. I was not wired for that. And that's okay. I can cheer on the people who are, and I'm really happy for them, right? So I think part of it is just really letting go of, like you said, that image of perfection that takes away and draws our time and energy from actually being the best version of ourselves.
That's a huge mindset shift. That's a key breakthrough there for working in family business or working in any kind of business, that bringing that back to honor giftings and operating your gifting, that takes the weight off, because there's a lot of things that we do that we have no business doing.
A lot of us tend to be pretty controlling, right? And Kathy certainly was in that group. I remember when I hired my VA, that was really hard for me. I learned so much in that experience itself in allowing me to be free to do the things I'm really good at and not spend my time on the things I'm not. Somebody else who was better at that could take that away from me and free my schedule and my time for things like coaching and training, which I am good at. That's one of the hardest things sometimes in a family business is that feeling that we're supposed to do it all and almost never coming up for air. It's like, I can't come home yet. I need to do the marketing. I need to do the books. I need to do the hiring and the firing. I need to do, right. And all of a sudden it's midnight and we've missed life other than what we're building. We can get really caught up in the building. I remember having a conversation with a woman who was in late life, retired, had a really successful life. And it was one of the saddest conversations I think I've ever had. She had missed the growth of her children. She ended up without a relationship. She had a great career, but then looking back, she had a lot of regrets because she couldn't go back and relive those childhood years. One of the things that we worked on together was how to build relationships from there forward, but she couldn't go back and reclaim those decades she'd lost. And I guess that's one of the things I really wanted to get across today is you can do a wonderful business and still have time for your family. It's about priorities. Most of the time, what happens is we don't get real on the priorities. And we try to bite off too big of chunks and we try to go too fast. If we take small, methodical steps and we're very careful about choosing what's my one big step, my one thing today, And if it seems overwhelming, you break it down more because that way you're going to make progress, you're going to have success, and you're still going to have time for the things in your life that matter outside of the business.
Oh, that's so powerful. When you talked about hiring your VA, when we're starting out, because we're doing everything, we become competent, maybe a little bit more than competent, and then we feel really confident doing that thing, but you really are not the best person to do that thing. You've developed enough to oversee someone who is better than you at doing that, but you're not the best. You've just built up that more than competence to get that thing done.
Even if you were a good VA as a side thing for your business, normally a VA is not going to do keynote speaking or they're not going to go train, right? And so you have to think about where's the best use of my time and energy? What skill sets do I have that are not as common that I can really maximize that I'm good at and let somebody else take those other pieces? Even if I can do them, that might not be the best use of my time.
That's so true. And I also like that you said being with your family and not having regrets. It makes you realize that the things that we want to accomplish, maybe that vision is not going to be finished with you.
Mhm.
And if you try to run like it was finished with you, then you miss out on everything. Maybe you are just to take it to a solid foundation and somebody else is going to pick up in the case of a family business. Someone
Yes.
else in the family is going to not start from zero. It's going to start from a really solid foundation that you left and take it to the next place.
I love that, Priscilla. I think that's a really good point. And I think too, not losing sight of I love business. Obviously, I love it. I've had all kinds of businesses, but it's a tool. The business itself is not the end all of your life. It's a tool. It's a way to connect with people. It's a way to make their lives better. It's a way to build. But it's the fruit behind the business and the life behind the business that really, in the end, makes the difference. And so, not losing sight of it's not the business that's defining you. It's what are the values that we're using as a family? What are we trying to do with this business? What's the point of having it in the bigger picture? Why are we running this business? The easy answer is because I want to pay for my groceries this week, right? But it might be something a lot bigger than that. Like, I want to give certain people opportunities for employment that have never had it, or I want to be able to affect a community in a certain way, or what is that bigger picture so that we don't lose sight of why we're in the business in the first place? Because just providing services is cold and empty by itself, or products. We tend, especially entrepreneurs, because we love to create, we tend to bite off lots of things and go in 100 directions at once. There was a little cartoon character when I was young. This is going to date me, but there was this little animal called the Taz. And he was a little Tasmanian devil, and he would spin around and slobber. And every once in a while, he would stop and look where he was. I feel like entrepreneurs, we do that a lot where we're just out there, right? We're spinning and we're moving and we're trying all the things and we're creating, and we forget to just stop for a second, look around and say, is this the life I want to build? Am I going in the right direction? Am I touching the people I want to make a difference with? Once you take a moment to stop and recenter, it can really help you to use your time better and your resources better. And it also can help you to think more about good hiring choices, or who in the family should I bring in? What kind of personalities do we need?
This idea of hustle culture contradicts with balance and the way that a person would want to have that family and healthy work life balance. Like you said, when you realize that there are certain things that you are absolutely phenomenal at, and if you poured more of yourself into that, that work smarter, not harder. It sounds crazy, but that's what it is.
Mhm.
You really can enjoy more benefits from doing the thing at which you excel at, which is your area of gifting. And since our audience is also of Christian entrepreneurs, the other day, I can't remember exactly where, maybe Kathy, you'll tell me. It was talking about Jacob, how for every seed he sowed, God gave him 100-fold.
That is such a big part of the journey for all of us, right? I realize, and I know everybody listening to this is going to feel that too. I'm on my way home. I'm not home. I'm on a journey. And while I'm here, my job is to sow seeds, to show love, and to see people through the Lord's eyes, and to serve them and glorify Him. How do I do that? It's a beautiful thing to be able to build businesses that touch people in a deep way where they feel seen and appreciated and they trust you. It opens up so many conversations beyond the business, which I love. Because for me, the eternal part is more important than the temporal part. But if you think about the scripture, and I talk about this in the book, when Jesus met the woman at the well, the first thing he said to her wasn't, "Hi, I'm the Messiah, have a seat." He started talking to her about water. He met her where she was. And I've thought about that so many times. Our businesses can meet people where they are and make their lives better in that moment in the temporal. And when that happens, a bond starts to form. And now we have the opportunity to go into more of the temporal and, more importantly, the eternal. And I have seen that in my own coaching. I would say almost every single coaching client I've ever had, whether a believer or not, has asked me about my faith, because you build that trust over time and they want to understand it. And to me, that's much more important than anything else I'm doing in the business. But it's an opportunity. It's a way for me to provide loaves and fishes, right? It's the same for everybody else that's out there. We're providing something that's going to make people's lives better and make them feel valued. And that's rare. So once we give that, then we have the opportunity to come alongside them in a lot of other ways too, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take you to some things that I think people think about when they think about family business, because I think it's such a huge opportunity. And it's exciting that you've written this book. People
Thank
probably think about the challenges that they'd face working with family members. They would probably think about the financial or conflicts around money and managing conflicts in family business. And a lot of times we don't have the tools even to navigate family without the business part.
Right.
We don't have the tools just to get along. The tools for us to be able to manage a family business.
Yeah, there's a lot in the book about this. One of the core principles that I talk about a lot is relationship building. I think that's core, because you can have the best product or the best service. And if you can't build relationships, who's going to buy it? Who's going to work for you? Who's going to return as a customer? Right? You might get a few, but it's not going to be long lasting. Where I start with clients when I work with them, we start by exploring, what did God give you as gifts? What is your beauty in your personality? I believe each of us were put in the time and place we're in because we're the best person to fill it with the gifts he's given us. He put us here on purpose. I'm here right now and you're here right now for a reason. It's not an accident. This is the time of history we're in. So what are those gifts? How does Kathy naturally behave because of those gifts? And also, my greatest strengths sometimes are going to be my biggest challenges. So I'll give you an example of that. One of my gifts is I'm a visionary future thinker. I love to think about what's possible and what's coming next and lay out the thoughts. The challenge with that sometimes is I miss living in the moment because I'm always looking forward. I literally have 40,000 photos on my phone. And I know the reason for that is because I'm trying to get pictures as I go through life to make sure I don't forget what I've experienced because I'm looking forward. All of us have those. We have these giftings that we've been given, specially, that we're very good at. But where do we have to balance? Where do we need people around us? I need somebody to sit down and say, "Kathy, look around you in this restaurant and chew this hamburger." Because I might be too busy thinking forward. I might just swallow the hamburger and I'm not paying any attention. Initially, I work with the person that's leading the organization or that's reached out to me, and we start to explore. And then we'll oftentimes do that with the rest of the team. So I can create team charts and I can create graphs where I can show, this is where everybody, if you think of a globe of the world, we have a blend of personality styles that God has given us, and everybody has the ability to move around on that globe. But we have what I call a natural spot, a comfy place, the little red dot on the globe of where we live. Once we know where that is, we can look at, where does everybody else live? Do we have family members that are living in Australia and family members living in United States in our personality globe, right? What does that mean? How do we adjust for that? What words do we change? How do we have conversations? I spend a lot of time there, because if you can't build the relationship piece, the rest of it isn't going to matter as much. But we start there. It's sometimes awesome to have a family where a lot of people have the same types of gifts because they get along well. The downside is nobody's watching what's going on in the day life if all of us are visionaries, right? I need somebody who's staying and saying, that's important to think about. If we aren't all getting along, what's the benefit of that, though? Where is the gifting of that? Do we have holes in our family structure where we are missing some personality styles? Maybe we don't have somebody who's a high detail person, and we might need that. There are times and places in bookkeeping and legal and in hiring and things like that where that can be very valuable. We might be missing somebody who is really good at people outreach and marketing. Looking at that as a beginning space is usually where I start with family groups, and then I'll go and do team trainings where we're working on leadership development, strategic planning, succession planning, priorities, boundaries. A lot of it is language too. How do I talk to somebody else? Because I think understanding ourselves is something that culture talks about quite a bit. Where I have a problem with that is if I just come to Priscilla and say, "Hi, Priscilla, I know all about Kathy, and Kathy's amazing, and here's all of my traits. Do you want to work with me and buy my products?" Usually the rest of us are like, "So how do I talk to you in a way that's going to connect with you so that you even care what I say or what I have to do?" That's the piece that oftentimes is missing. I spend a lot of times trying to give people ideas. Where should you meet? How should you talk to somebody? What kind of words can we use? Even dress. I don't believe in not being who we are, but we can modify slightly. I give the example. I live in Minnesota in the United States. So we have winter here with big snow and we have warm summers. I have different coats, obviously, depending on the time of year we're in. That doesn't make me a fake person if I'm wearing a winter coat or a spring coat. I'm adjusting to what's going on around me. It's the same idea with personalities. How can I use language that's going to make the other person feel valued and like I care what I'm sharing with them so that they are more open to learning and growing in the business, even with family members? That's really important. That's an area where I spend a lot of time in the development.
That's amazing work. I like where you started with the relationship and then with that connecting. A lot of us, even those who are not entrepreneurs, hopping from one job to another, looking for that relationship, looking for that to be seen, looking for someone to connect with you. And you realize that those are foundational to any business. And I think even more so to a family business. Yesterday, I was thinking about having this talk with you, and I was thinking of all the big American family names and wondering, I wonder who started that and how that looked like and to what it is. I'm sure we know all the big names, the family brands. And even when you walk around and you're like, I wonder who built this building, and you'd have no idea, but it's a certain family.
I love family in general. I talk about this in the book. I come from a full family of entrepreneurs. We're all a little on the crazy side and so many businesses and backgrounds through the family. But I love the opportunity to share the journey with your family because we are close to them. We want to be close to them. As I was talking to you about before with the relationship building, learning how to talk to somebody in a business transfers over to learning how to talk to somebody in the family too. We see this huge improvement in relationships. Most of the time, people don't get up in the morning and say, "Let's see how I can drive Kathy crazy today," right? It's just that they're going to talk differently than I do. Once you learn some of those skills, it transforms, which can make the family stronger and you can leave a legacy like you're talking about. Again, I love when families can make that kind of an impact. I never want it to be the reason I get up in the morning. My whole goal, if I had a 20 generational business, I'd be happy, but that's not my end goal. My end goal is, are we using our gifts? Can the family be a part of that? And do they want to be a part of that? That's a mistake sometimes families make. You must be in this business because you're part of the family. They might be wired for the business. Thinking about if we can do this in joy, especially if we're all in faith together, what an awesome, powerful witness that is, and an amazing way to make a difference in the world around us. It just allows us to multiply those lights. I love that part of it. And then how do we make that impact? How do we touch people, especially since COVID? I have seen such a deep desire for people to be seen beyond just the skin, the front. Please see me as a human. Please see me underneath. Please care about who I am. I think the fact that a lot of us were closed away from each other for a while probably drew that out even more. So we have this unbelievable opportunity to touch people in their hearts and to really have transforming moments because most people won't care enough to share that deeply with them.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Kathy. It's really I think, gotten the light bulbs going. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. What would you say you want people to walk away?
I would say I love Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I use that a lot in my business. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he'll direct your paths, right? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. I believe that whatever the fruits of this business are, as long as I keep him front and center, I named it after him. Lion Crest Leadership is named after the Lion of Judah intentionally so that I never forget this is his business. Just continually praying, Lord, help me to see people through your eyes. Help me to love them like you want me to love them. That's a successful day. It's not just the income. There are days I make less money, but I've had a more profound impact. Those are worth 100 times what I make. And that's the part I guess I would encourage people is because we're in this for the upper story, God's going to put you where you need to be as long as you're seeking him, constantly praying, and you're being faithful with the resources he's giving you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And please, the legacy of your family business is available on Amazon, and I'm sure everywhere books are sold. If you want to learn more about Kathy, you can listen to the episode before. And where can they follow you, Kathy?
I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I have lioncrestleadership.com as my website. You can email me at Kathy@lioncrestleadership.com. Those are probably 3 of the easiest ways to catch me.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.